I already knew that Andrew was the candidate of ideas, and but I hadn't yet really had an intimate conversation or relationship with him, and I got a text from the campaign. I was sitting in my Chicago apartment, full blizzard, and they said, Stephen, Andrew has this last-minute opportunity. He has to get on a plane in Chicago to Raleigh, North Carolina, speak at the College Democrats Convention. This is almost a year ago. Huge opportunity. Can you pick him up in Iowa, middle of Iowa, bring him back to your apartment, stay overnight, and drive him to the airport in the morning?
Hell yeah. I believe it. Damn right.
That's when I knew I was a real believer. Because I picked him up. I was white-knuckling the whole way back, 6 hours. And that's when I knew that after many different conversations, he's versatile, trust me. We talked about the Fyre Fest documentary. We talked about Howard Schultz was relevant at the time, and we talked about ice cream is best in the winter. And he stopped at Culver's. But I knew that, not only, I was already convinced, certainly at this point, because I had known Andrew in one way or another for some time, that he had the most bold, transformative, 21st century ideas, that he was the one that made me believe that radical and practical were compatible. And that drive, that 6 hour drive, and the whiskey we shared at night, and the sleepover, if you will, that made me realize that Andrew was a human, and the human I met, I also loved. And I knew he was the candidate not only with ideas, but a candidate with heart and humanity. And that's why we call this Humanity First. This is the campaign that is putting humanity first. So without me saying anything further, I am so thrilled, excited to welcome the next and 46th President of the United States, Andrew Yang.
Chicago! First, let's give it up to Stephen Dime, our host for the evening, along with all the other hosts. Stephen didn't talk about the worst parts of those drives. No, I'm just kidding. I was so grateful to Stephen. Oh my gosh. It was early days of the campaign, and Stephen was a visionary, an early adopter, OG Yang Gang. He saw what this campaign was going to become before just about anybody else, and I appreciate the heck out of you, Stephen. That's how you become an entrepreneur that helps create this beautiful space and businesses that employ how many people? Is it dozens, hundreds? 60. Dozens of people.
60 people! He did the math!
How many of you all are entrepreneurs? I sense it's a very entrepreneurial group. That's what I'm talking about. I sense this is like the tribe of entrepreneurs. And so Stephen is obviously a dyed-in-the-wool entrepreneur. My campaign team is comprised of a very, very high proportion of entrepreneurs. And it's entrepreneurs who see what's possible. And I was joking with someone earlier tonight that there are two things to try and make something happen. Number one is you say someone else will take care of it, which almost never works. And then the second way is say, I guess I'm going to have to make that happen. And that's really the impulse that drove me to run for president, where I'd been around the block enough over the last number of years to realize that our system is not going to heal itself, that Washington, D.C. is not going to regenerate functionality, it's not going to reconstitute all the trust with the millions of Americans around the country who've just thrown up their hands and given up, who can barely watch cable news, some of whom decided that taking a bet on the narcissist reality TV star was the right move. And that to me was a giant stop sign, a giant red flag to say, okay, this is not business as usual. Civilization is reaching something of a precipice and the erosion is accelerating. And again, if you want to do something about it, you could be like, well, DC will figure it out. Or you say, what are the requirements to run for president again? Right, then you look at the documents and being like, 35 years or older, check. Natural born citizen, check. Those are the only requirements. And I was like, interesting. And then I go to my wife, be like, hey, baby, I think I'm gonna run for president. And then she was like, that's nice, pass the salt. She like, didn't take it seriously. And I was like, interesting. But that is what brought me into the campaign those years ago. I mean, the campaign, there was no campaign. It's like brought me into the campaign. It was more like, it's so fun. I'll actually walk you through this because you all are entrepreneurs. It's actually kind of fun. So you look at the legal requirements, you're like, okay, that's nothing. And then it's like, what is the filing you have to do with the government? So it turns out thousands of people run for president every cycle. How many of you knew that? Because it costs approximately $25 to file the paperwork to run for president. You all also can be candidates for president. Very, very straightforwardly. What you do is you send in $25 to FEC, and then you are now a candidate for president.
$25 to run for president?
Oh, it's really quite fascinating. Turns out running for president is almost entirely media construction. So of the thousands of people that file the paperwork to run for president, obviously you don't hear about just about any of them. So who do you hear about? You hear about the people that the media take seriously as a candidate. And I thought that I had enough raw material, primarily a compelling message that would get me into that media orbit. I also thought that being the first Asian American man to run for president as a Democrat might be helpful. Little did I know.
Not a lot of help.
Little did I know that that was actually not going to be as much of like the media magnet as I thought it was going to be. So I thought, okay, what are the requirements? Done. And then I have to go out and raise money. So like all of the entrepreneurs here in this room, or most of you, because not all of you had to do this, you send a message to your friends, but you don't send a message because that's not going to work. So what you do is you schedule lunches and coffees and calls with your friends, some of whom you have not seen in quite some time. And then you'll be like, hey, what's been going on? Yeah, that's good. So I think I'm going to run for president. You have to donate $2,800 to my campaign. So I had a bunch of those conversations, raised a couple $100,000 from friends, some of whom were like, Andrew, you're out of your mind, but here's a check because, because we go way back. So this sounds familiar to you all. Does this sound familiar? This is like angel financing, right? And a lot of people who are your angel backers are just going to give you money because you're their friend and you asked them and you did something similar for them. Maybe it wasn't money, it was something else. So that was where the first couple $100,000 came from. And then New York Times did a piece on my campaign, and then you just keep grinding forward and you keep accruing the elements of a campaign. Now, I didn't have a mailing list to start with. I had like my Google email address book. So I sent everyone to my address book being like, hey, run for president. And it's like, there's the website. And then some people were like, president of what? Like other things. So I just wanted you guys to get a sense of the genesis. And it was not quite this janky and early by the time Steven saw the vision, but it wasn't that more advanced than this. Honestly, I can tell you so many stories. There's gonna be, this story told after I'm president. There's gonna be quite the story. Yeah, so the early days, I'm grateful for on so many levels, and I'm grateful particularly to the team members who decided to quit, in some cases very high-paying jobs, to come work for this campaign. And I joke, but it's true. No one in professional politics was like, I'm going to get on the Andrew Yang campaign. This is going to be my trip to that plum job on Capitol Hill. I've had my eye, it's that's not a calculation. So everyone who joined the campaign joined for the same reason you're all here tonight, because they believe in the message and the mission. And an article came out pretty recently that said that there are only a handful of candidates that can answer the question, why are you running for president? And one of them is Andrew Yang. Because I've had a very clear rationale to run for president the entire time. It's the fact that it's not immigrants that are causing displacement around the economy, it's technology and the evolution. And those of you who are entrepreneurs know that half the things you would have hired someone to do 10, 12 years ago, now what do? You just go Gusto or some email subscription, you pay someone, no, you joke, but it's true. Yeah, it's like we all do it. It's like I would have had to like pay someone for that like a while ago. Now I'm just gonna pay some company $80 a month, and then like you just try and automate things as much as possible, right? And then the people you do hire tend to be on like one end or the other. It's like, you need like a lot of those middle class jobs of 10, 12 years ago don't exist for your business now. So I knew that this was the mission. I had a range of outcomes, and as we keep punching each of these